This is the Entrepreneur Podcast.
Welcome back to the podcast.
Hello.
Hello. Today, we're going to share some of the financial aspects of how we went from full-time military income to being business owners and how we did that financially. We're now almost exactly a year out from leaving the military and ending that income source. So we thought it was a fitting time to share some of the ups and downs and how we did that. Because I would say we are absolutely successful in our business. We've been continuing to scale, grow our revenue and profits every month, but we haven't necessarily paid ourselves every month. And so we're going to share some of that and what that kind of looked like for us, especially starting out. We had some struggles in some of the early months. But before we get to that, as always, Kelly, start us out the proper way.
Okay, question of the day. Get your mind open and ready to think outside the box. Okay.
That was weird. Go ahead.
Would you rather, Josiah, try to catch a turkey or try to catch a fox?
With my hands? Or what do you mean by catch?
Would you? I'm going to just leave it as is, so you get to figure that out. Catch a turkey or catch a fox?
Okay. I'm thinking fox. I think fox would be more difficult but more rewarding. You can go to Walmart and buy a turkey for how much? No, help me out here.
I don't know.
I think a good price, Thanksgiving's coming up. I think a good price is maybe 99 cents a pound. I don't often buy turkey. Turkey's probably my least favorite meat out there.
That would be pretty cheap, I think. But
Turkey bacon is a travesty to the modern world. Don't even get me started on that.
it does. Turkey makes the best sandwich meat, though. Let
Let me clarify that statement. Turkey lunch meat is trash. Leftover Thanksgiving turkey made into a sandwich is a completely different creation and is a quality quality substance. We'll go with that because I can't say that other word. You know what I'm thinking of. So I'm going to go with fox because...
Why would it be more rewarding? Why did you say rewarding?
Financially, a fox pelt is going to be, I can guarantee,
oh my goodness,
worth if you get a nice quality pelt. And I'm by no means any sort of fur trapper or trader, but I can guarantee you probably get a couple $100 more if you do the fox right versus a turkey.
Would you prefer to catch what would the fox look like? Like what color?
I think the
because most people, I don't know if you know this, we live in Alaska, and we might actually have like red foxes, right? But
yeah.
We have like Arctic foxes, so they tend to be like white, or they can be kind of brown.
Yeah, I would go for Arctic fox. I think it's a much cooler and more unique color. There was a number of years ago, on my drive into work every morning, I saw a Arctic fox family right alongside the road. They were there every day, every morning for like a week. Maybe I think little, like two parents and a couple little.
Are they kits?
Kids. I don't know.
Or are they pups?
It was really cool to see them in the like twilight of the morning every day, and then they went on their way one day, and I was disappointed. I've never seen them again. But
that's really
yes,
cool.
I would go absolutely with a fox. I think it would be more challenging than a turkey. I've never attempted to hunt or catch either of these animals. But yeah, fox would be way better. A fox is a predator. A turkey is, I don't know, a fat, ugly bird.
Okay.
That's kind of all I have to say on it.
But you wouldn't eat a fox.
True, but if I was going to be hunting for meat, I wouldn't hunt a turkey.
Okay, that's
There's
fair.
much better options.
Oh, I'd like a turkey. I like turkey sandwich meat. It's my preference. We have debates about this all the time. He thinks it's gross. Anyways, cool. I like that would be cool to have a Arctic fox pelt.
Yeah, you can make a hat like that.
Oh.
That Russian style hat that you got me. What are those called? I think the one you got me is made out of rabbit.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's rabbit.
I think fox would lend itself well to that style.
That would be a nice style. Or the ones that people make out of wolf, and then they have like the head still with like the jaw open and stuff. That's kind of cool. Those are fun to see if you've never been to Alaska. If you come in the winter around February timeframe, they have, or end of February, beginning of March, they have what's called Ferrandi in Anchorage, and they do like a fur and animal sales at Ferrandi. So it's pretty cool to go check out. I don't think we have a video of that, do we? No, I don't think we have a video.
No.
Maybe we'll try that this year. Make a video from the Ferrandi auction, but I'm sure you could YouTube it and find some from previous years. Those are pretty cool. Everybody wears their fur coats and their hats and stuff.
It's a very humane event. All the animals are already dead, so you don't need to worry about it.
Oh my goodness. Okay, so we are going to jump into how my husband, how Josiah left the military, and that being our full-time only source of income, and how we became full-time business owners. And now that we're about a year out, we thought we'd touch on that. It's been quite a year. There's been a lot of change, not only like for us personally, but just in general for our businesses. And with COVID on top of it, that's made some of what we originally planned on doing maybe January of 2020 when we were chatting about all this stuff, it's changed drastically in the past, like almost now 2 years.
Yeah, I think that's part of being a business owner, is being able to adapt to change and solve problems as they come. Your plan's never going to work perfectly the way you expect it to. And if you're going to be successful as a business owner, entrepreneur, something in that space, you need to be able to take on those challenges and not get stressed and overwhelmed and just quit. You're not going to survive long term, in my opinion. So maybe, that's a good place to start. I think probably about 2 years, or maybe a little over 2 years ago, not only did we settle on leaving the military, but we settled on trying out running and owning businesses and having that as our full-time living, as opposed to going into the engineering or project management kind of sector, is what my skills probably would have transferred to.
Right.
Just decided that wasn't for me. And so with that, we threw a lot of ideas back and forth. We had already kind of played with a couple different businesses just in our personal hobby time.
I did have a part-time tutoring job that we did actually pull from and use as income, but it was just supplemental. It was just to, buffer the savings or add to vacations, that sort of thing. It wasn't anything like full-time commitment or anything.
Yeah, so I think we've talked about this several times on assorted podcasts we've done, but early January 2020, kind of in that beginning of the year, we were very hopeful and excited about getting into the Airbnb and travel industry. We already had a travel planning, Alaska-focused business where we had helped several clients in the past plan their trips, and we were looking to get into short-term rentals full-time. That was going to be our main breadwinner. Well, 2020 happened, and mostly with all the overstepping of different government agencies, locally, state-wise, and nationally, the travel industry was destroyed for Alaska 2020. And so we decided, as we were preparing to leave the military that fall, September, that wasn't going to work anymore.
Yeah, especially as full-time income.
Yeah.
No way.
So But something that worked out really well for us is, since we have been dabbling and trying lots of different business ideas, is we had other businesses we could pivot to. And instead of the small part-time gig that they were at the time, we could figure out a way and ramp them into a full-time breadwinner. And so that's when we moved on to the Amazon e-commerce industry for our full-time business. And at the time, I think I had been...
When was this?
Early 2020.
Okay.
Yeah, I guess I should say we pursued the Airbnb kind of stuff through April, May of 2020, which only is, what, about
4 months there?
5 months before leaving the military. So some would say probably cutting it close.
Well, and I think we realized, especially when March came around and everything was starting to shut down, and we realized very quickly it wasn't going to just be 2 weeks of slowing the curve, that we were like, and maybe we should start reconsidering. I mean, we still looked into it because we were like super hopeful that it would, like, our state would leave things open, but they did not. And so we were like, we can't assume, because we can't even try it out this summer because it was so down on the amount of people that come to visit, let alone, like, I'm not even sure how much they were allowing it back last summer, 2020.
Yeah, so as of April/May 2020, we still had pretty much no business income and just a kind of like couple hobbies.
Yeah, you had your Amazon and eBay business that you had been like,
yeah, but when I say no,
it
was like nowhere close to anything we could live on. You could maybe like buy a 12-pack of soda every month,
oh my
something
goodness,
like that. So yeah, I had started. I'd always dabbled with eBay and kind of got interested in Amazon sometime in 2019 as kind of just like a side
just
project,
fun,
maybe
yeah.
make $1,000 a month, kind of was the goal, just for fun. And so in the middle of 2020, when our plans disappeared, we pivoted and decided to do Amazon full time. And the avenue for that was going to be entirely 100% used books, which is a great business model. There's a lot of opportunity there, and made a lot of decent money throughout 2020. Towards the end of 2020, realized that wasn't scalable the way I wanted it to be scalable, and wasn't just to scale it to that level wasn't going to match up with the lifestyle we desired. Right. I think that was the biggest problem.
Right. Especially in regards to the amount of time you were having to put into it.
Yeah, so started end of the year, like probably November, right around when we stopped getting a paycheck from the Army, took a drastic change to uproot and redo the business model, looking into arbitrage style stuff instead of used books. And
what is arbitrage? Explain that.
So arbitrage, the word is taking advantage of the differences in prices in different markets. So an example of Amazon and using arbitrage would be looking at what a product is sold for at Walmart, whether brick and mortar or even Walmart.com online, and then looking and seeing that because of the differences in markets, that products can actually sell for twice as much on Amazon. And so then taking advantage of that and basically moving products from one marketplace where it's undervalued to another where you're in some way providing more value. And I would say if you're selling on Amazon, you're providing way more customer service and experience and speed of shipping, those kind of things. That's why the customer goes there compared to them going to Walmart. That's kind of the idea of arbitrage. So I guess big picture switched from selling used books to selling new in box regular retail items. Nothing that I created the designs for, stuff that you can look, analyze different numbers, know that they sell, know that they're trusted brands, Hasbro, PJ Masks, whatever. Those are just some rant, Coco Melon.
Right.
Stuff like that. So yeah, I've learned a lot about different trends in kids' toys.
Yes.
I probably know more than I should admit when
Right.
it comes to things like Coco Melon.
And we only have like one child, one infant.
Yeah,
so
he's not anywhere near that
a
age.
toddler. But how did we, so going back to a year ago, so we're recording this right now in October of 2021. So we're thinking back to, we'll start with like September of 2020. Now, mind you, before that, we had made like, we knew we were getting out of the military. All of those things were happening in full swing. Like, we had already moved off base, that sort of thing. So it wasn't like September was the first time we thought of it. But we'll just put you in perspective on where we were at mentally and thinking through back in September. So can you set us up? So we gave you a summary of like where we have come from between January 2020 to now October 2021. But we're going to focus the rest of this episode towards money-wise, what we were thinking, going from full-time military income or full-time just in general income to full-time business owner income, and how a little bit of how that can be a somewhat big transition. And on top of that, like, how do you prepare and what do you do, especially in our first year?
Yeah, so there's a lot of changes that happen when you're leaving the military. And I would say even more so in our experience when you're leaving the military and going to something like being a business owner, entrepreneur. I went from having a lot of restrictions over my lifestyle, as well as many would say, very safe and nearly guaranteed monthly income and paycheck with,
and benefits.
And benefits with nearly guaranteed raises as you promote and spend more time in the service, to the next month having 100% control over my schedule, as well as probably the most difficult thing, not necessarily earning the money in our business, but deciding how much we could take from the business in order to pay ourselves and take care of our bills.
Right.
So a couple of the things that before we jumped into this, sometime probably early 2020, we sat down and looked at a lot of different things financially. One, we don't have any debt, and we haven't had any debt for years. I think that's huge in our experience of what we've been able to do. If we had any debt, school, student loans, or vehicles, or credit cards, anything like that, I don't think this would have been possible.
No.
Or if it was, it would have been a lot more stressful and a lot more difficult. So I think that's big. We don't own a house at this time. That's certainly something we desire to in the future, but I think not having a house that we owned, or a mortgage, or the potential of catastrophic maintenance, things like that, in hindsight might have actually been beneficial to us. We knew exactly how much our rent was going to be each month, and we could get a good guesstimate of how much utilities would be each month.
Right.
It gave us a pretty known across the top cost.
Oh, and I mean, just to buffer, we had actually considered at the beginning of the summer 2020, like May, can you believe this? May, June of 2020, we were like actually looking to buy a house. Providentially, it did not work out, but that's just wild to me to think like we went from like all of this, what we're thinking back to like spring, late winter in 2020 to like where we are now. It's just drastically different. It's pretty wild. But anyway, so we had no debt, but we still had rent. Yeah. But there wasn't any, like what you were getting at, there wasn't, for us, it did actually work out probably for the better, because we didn't have any, if the hot water heater goes out, we don't have like that sort of expense. We just call up the property management group and say, hey, so our hot water heater is out. Like, got to figure this out. And that for now, especially within our first year of running businesses on our own, has been kind of nice.
Yeah. If you're on YouTube or a platform where you can comment down below. I'm interested in other people's thoughts on if you're jumping from a 9-to-5 or a steady salary job to being a business entrepreneur. Do you think it's better to be a renter for your personal home or to own a home? I think from our experience, I think there are benefits to renting, but we've never owned a home. What are your thoughts? So anyway, we sat down and we looked at all of our expenses every month: rent, utilities, insurance, gas, food, clothes. And then we had also added in 2020 the addition of infant needs with the birth of our son. So that was a category that was in some ways unknown to us.
And at the time,
kids can be expensive, and especially as they grow and get older,
yes,
the costs with that can expand.
And in the fall, we were still formula feeding, which we ended up changing in like January because he became a year old, and so we were able to switch to like milk. But so that was a big expense still, and let alone diapers and all of that. It can be expensive infant items. But part of utilities I did want to add for us specifically. Now, again, this can depend on whatever work you're doing, but for us, we had to make sure for our utilities for business wise, we had to make sure we had internet, and we had to make sure we had access to, a computer, which we already had. So that wasn't like a monthly fee or whatnot. And then our cell phone bill, like data, that sort of thing. Minutes for calling or however they do it now, unlimited everything. So that was also, we would consider that part of our utilities because it's for our businesses so needed. We can't run them without that.
Yeah. And also with that, we looked into downgrading our living situation, like square footage, size of house wise, but we ultimately decided, no, we're going to be running businesses. We need home offices. We're going to spend a lot of time. We need to put additional money into monthly rent in order to make this work. And I'm glad we made that decision. It would have been much more difficult. So we actually have a decently sized space given the needs of our business.
So you could consider that if you're starting to run your own business and you want to go from full time, maybe consider downsizing to lessen the amount of like expenses going out in your personal life. But for us, I mean, you might just want to consider even keeping the same size home or upping it, potentially even just an additional bedroom, just for the needs of your own business, depending on where you're running it from.
Yeah, so all that to say, we took a really serious analysis of how much money we needed each month, bare minimum, in order to pay the bills and make ends meet without having to pull money from additional savings, etc. And I think that was crucial to start with. If you don't know how much money you need, then where do you start?
Right.
How do you know if it's going to be possible?
And we made sure to not only have this one big sit down a couple times, talking through all of this, but we made sure to continue doing this monthly and with minimal updates throughout the month, depending on like the month and how things are going. But continuing to have consistent conversation was crucial for us to like make this work and succeed, especially budget wise.
Yeah. Let's look at a little bit more specifics kind of monthly, how this played out. So we've always had a roughly 3 to 6 months savings fund in the event of emergency. And I'm glad to say and that we've been blessed through all this, and we never had to touch that fund through the entirety of this last year. I don't think we've ever touched that fund since we created it, which is awesome.
If you do want to know more about that, we have YouTube videos, or I guess a podcast about it. Our whole financial series we did this past January 2021. You can go check that out. We have information about all of this, so we won't go into depth about all of that stuff. Just know if you want more information, you can go check that out.
Yeah. So September 2020, as we were preparing to finally exit the military, we decided to set aside some extra money in the event that we weren't going to be able to pay ourselves the entirety of the minimum we needed. So we saved between September and October $6,000 to $7,000 just to help kind of pad some of that. And that is money that we ended up using throughout the next 6 or 8 months. Let's see, September and October ended up actually getting a full paycheck from the Army. Some things got messed up paperwork wise, and my exit got delayed a little, so I didn't end up
I think you're supposed to
leaving
leave
the military till mid-November instead of end of September, which ended up being a blessing. We got a little additional pay from that. We probably weren't, we definitely weren't quite at the scale we needed to be with Amazon sales at that point. So December, we started out and we paid ourselves entirely from the business, and that's how we made ends meet that month. And then January did the same, and then kind of in February,
and you did really well in December and January. Just to add for your business, especially for that time, that was you had been doing it full time for a little bit. But those were, if you know anything, fourth quarter is huge, and January can still be huge in sales. And you did really well those 2 months in sales.
Yeah, I think December and January, my sales were massive compared to any previous month. And some of that is the business had gotten to the point where I had enough capital to heavily reinvest into new inventory, and so the growth was starting to what's the word, like create a landslide, or like a snowball effect. Okay. You just keep aggressively growing that amount of inventory, because again, this is still a business that we've never put a massive amount of money in. It all started in 2019 with a couple $100, and it's grown organically from that to what it is today. And I think we mentioned it a podcast or two ago, but we just recently crossed over 310 grand in sales for this calendar year 2021, and we've still got November, December, which arguably are the best months retail e-commerce sees. Because of the Christmas holiday season. So really, really excited for the potential of, we'll probably hit over 400K. It'd be awesome to hit 500,000. I don't think we'll quite get there this year, but we'll probably be close. Next year for sure.
Super exciting.
Which is crazy from last year in a super part-time amount. I think we hit maybe 100 grand in sales for the year. Somewhere around there. But anyway, in February, we started realizing our business accounting sucked. I had no idea. I knew the business was making money each month.
And you had a rough idea of the profit.
And I kind of had a guess as to how much, but I couldn't formulate, like, okay, this is how much revenue we had this month. This is how much expenses. This is how much we invested in new inventory. This is how much pure profit there is that we can draw from to either invest in new inventory or pay ourselves. I didn't really know. And that was a big mistake and kind of regret I have from early on in this business. And so February started realizing, we just paid ourselves December and January. We might have paid ourselves more than the profit was those months, which means we were kind of like taking more from the business than the business could handle. Not good, especially when you're trying to scale something.
Yeah.
So started doing more accounting work with that, and so February we didn't pay ourselves the full amount we needed to pay the bills and stuff, and we took some from that 6 or 7 grand in savings that we had set aside, kind of half and half that month. And March, I realized the problem was kind of worse than I thought. Like, my accounting was worse than I had thought as far as how much profit was there. And again, there was plenty of profit, but I was realizing every dollar we pull from the business at this point is a dollar that can't be invested in inventory and turned into $2, $3, or $4 next month.
Right.
And the amount of capital that we had stored up in the business accounts and invested in inventory wasn't there yet. And so we decided the next few months we needed to make some sacrifices and kind of try to heavily rely on our savings so that we could keep reinvesting that money in the business. And so I think March and April, I believe almost entirely survived off of savings, as well as some other random money that we're able to get here and there. I think maybe one of
March
those months
was completely from the savings, and then April was from partially savings. I ended up officially like closing down my tutoring business, which basically just meant I had I think it was like nearly $1,000 set off to the side for the tutoring business, mostly for like wasn't sure how much taxes were gonna be, didn't know like and other random like just like emergency savings for for the business itself. And so we were like, well, we're done with that, and it's April, so taxes were already due. We already figured that out, so we paid us the rest of it, which was nice. And then I think there was like other random income that came in that was kind of surprised, but kind of like also not a surprise, just in other ways we got paid. And so that was really beneficial because we were like, great, we don't have to pull any more money from the business. And our savings, we were like, let's just use the rest of that up. I think we should just do it. And then
yeah, and I would say we are pretty resourceful. When we moved up here, we got a lot of cheap and even free furniture in order to furnish our home, because we didn't come to Alaska with any furniture. I don't think we had
take
anything.
that back. It was one flimsy desk. I don't know why we brought it up here, but we had one desk and one
like
chair.
Those $40
Yeah.
like
IKEA
particle
something.
board ones.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like you build yourself.
So we had collected a lot of different furniture pieces, some of it really good quality, and we through some of these months started selling stuff that we realized we didn't want, we didn't need, and we were able to supplement some of our income doing things like that, being resourceful in order to help make ends meet, and that probably made a big difference there.
We were also prepping for a move because we knew we were going to move in July, which is a whole nother story we're not going to get into, but long story short, we got out of the military to stop moving, and then come to find out, like within like a year time frame, we moved twice. But anyways, so we were prepping for that as well, getting rid of a bunch of stuff. So that was super helpful. And then so March and April, basically again, we like finished off the savings that we had set aside, that original like what was it, $6,700, and then April we also had a bunch of other random income come in. And then May, you started paying us again.
Yeah, so
and we had
by the
some
time
other random like income come in, like your last Army paycheck and whatnot.
Yeah, by the time we got into May, I was much more comfortable with the accounting side of things and where the trajectory of the Amazon business was going. And most of it throughout the entirety of this was just that I didn't know. It wasn't that there wasn't profit there, our sales weren't going, the business wasn't growing. It's just I didn't have that information, and so the unknown aspect of it created a lot of stress and difficulty for us. But yeah, so
March and April were more difficult.
For anyone that's listening that is a e-commerce Amazon person, the big difference for me is I started using Inventory Lab software to track inventory I had, to track cost of goods, as well as other associated expenses, in addition to I started using QuickBooks somewhere in here, which I'm still learning to use to its maximum potential. That's not the easiest, most intuitive software in my opinion, but
your Inventory Lab, a reason why you like I think it took us maybe a couple weeks, and I remembered for 1 week, like I did some late nights with you to like set that up because we hadn't been like, again, going back to this accounting thing, it wasn't a lack of like you weren't making a profit and you just didn't know. Like you knew you were making a profit, you literally didn't know how specific it was. Like you didn't know exactly how much profit. We had a general range, but I mean that's a big problem when you're trying to pay yourself. So our recommendation in your first year of starting a business, or even before, because again, we had transitioned from doing it part-time just for fun, reinvesting all the money, never paying ourselves out of this business, to turning it into, now we have to pay ourselves. How do we do that? Biggest thing is, if you're going to set up anything like that, set up the accounting, do it in an easy way by having multiple accounts, income come into one, kind of like a file folder system, which we can get into at a different point. But basically, set your accounting up towards the beginning. Like, don't wait to do it later, because that was definitely very difficult. I mean, we worked it out and figured it out, but there was like a lot of old receipts we had to go through, and like, how much was this one item? How much was this item? You know, and figure out when it sold and that sort of thing, which Inventory Lab does a lot of that. If you're doing an Amazon type of business, but
Yeah.
find a system and pay for a software or pay for an Excel sheet or whatever that helps you save that time, because you don't want to be doing this every week, every night, trying to calculate everything. Especially if it's super complicated, like Josiah's business can be, that Amazon is, I mean, you have like hundreds of products going in and out all the time, if not thousands. And so that's just too much to manage one person. So having a software like he uses is crucial.
Yeah, I have anywhere from like 300 to 500 transactions each month, and that's just expenses. Then you've got shipping. It can be a nightmare if you don't handle it properly, and it definitely was for a few months here. Still learning a lot with it, but in a much better place now. So then May through basically to date now, we've been paying ourselves a more than the minimum we need every month in order to pay our bills and continue to start some of our personal savings goals and things like that again that we had put on hold for a couple months. And I think, funny side note, in May I actually got my final paycheck from the Army. So if you remember, we mentioned earlier, my official last day in the Army was early November. I got my last paycheck in May, and I had it in the back of my head for these like 6 months in between. I always thought, I don't feel like they paid me my last paycheck. But it's like, but it's been 4 or 5 months now. They must have, I guess.
Right.
And then randomly, there in May, finally got that. So if you're thinking about leaving the military, whether it's separation voluntarily or retirement, they're going to do a full audit of any pay or finances from the entirety of the time you've been in the military. And apparently that can take like 6 months. So that's what they did before sending you your final paycheck. They go through and make sure they've never overpaid you. You don't have indebtedness. They make sure, it's probably usually to the advantage of the government, not to yourself, but I'm sure every now and then they've underpaid, and they do a full scrub of your records before they issue that final check. So don't count on that check right away.
Yeah.
And hopefully other people have had a better experience. It would have been nice to have that money closer to when got out of the military, but finally got it. A couple grand. Kind of a surprise popped up in our bank account. But then in June, July, August, September, and this month now, October.
Lived off your business income.
Yeah, I feel like we're to the point where we're seeing really steady results and growth each month. Nearly each month, our sales and revenue and amount of capital we have to invest in inventory grows, which is really great. And we're like, this month, it's the 25th now, and I believe I've already set a new record for monthly sales, and we've got another 5 or 6 days in the month, which is really, really exciting. That basically means like we did what we've done in previous months in 3/4 of the time. So that's a huge success there. I started the year with the goal of 300 grand in sales. We've already reached that, and we've got, a little over 2 months left in the year. So we could probably make another 100K in sales. So there definitely were a lot of ups and downs, a lot of uncertainty when it came to our business accounting and those kind of things. But really excited and in a much better place now in order to grasp and understand those numbers and what's going on. And I do want to point out that through all of this, we've never used credit cards for our personal or for the business. It's all been organic money that we have. We've paid all our bills on time, never missed any of that.
Right. Right.
And
We're not
and
paying for like this month's expenses with next month's income. That's not how we've been doing
yeah, and that's been very important to us, and a lifestyle choice that we're committed to, and we think there's a lot of advantages to that. And with that, we knew when we jumped into this journey that if we needed to, I was okay with having to go get a part-time job or one of those little side gigs like running Uber or delivering pizza. I was okay with the idea of having to do that. Thankfully, never needed to, and
Right.
I think we're to the point now where we can say that's probably won't be needed unless something catastrophic happens in our business. And so now we're looking in the next phase for the next year to grow this business to the point where there's enough profit to invest it into our other business ideas with our travel industry.
Right.
Maybe at some point purchase rental properties or something like that, or invest some of it into additional Turo vehicles for next summer. So really excited about the possibilities with that, especially given some of the sacrifices we made.
And to clarify, if you haven't listened to previous episodes or you're kind of confused, so Josiah's business, the Amazon, our business, but like Josiah runs it, Amazon business, that's our income right now. Our travel business is doing well and like growing, but we are reinvesting all of that money back into the business. Not even though it's turning up profit, we're not like taking any right now. We're just reinvesting it right back into the business to grow it more. So that way it's like growing all the time instead of pulling the game we played for a little bit, which was over pulling out money when it wasn't pulling as much profit out. So again, all of that to say, we're still growing other businesses, and like what you mentioned, even potentially growing, we want to like open more businesses. We're just addicted to it. We're entrepreneurs.
Yeah, we're doing stuff like this podcast. You know, who knows? Maybe someday we'll earn $1 from this.
That'd be kind of fun.
Right now, probably not, but you can help us by sharing this to your friends.
Right.
I need to work on my sales pitch, but thanks for listening and maybe learning from our journey and our mistakes and our successes. I think the last thing I want to end with is through all of this, we planned our personal finances kind of with two goals in mind. And one, and we probably didn't start with this, but we realized this pretty early on. We needed to keep as much of the profits from the Amazon e-commerce business in the business in order to continue to scale it massively. Because we weren't going to use any debt or credit cards. It all had to be money that existed there that we had earned from previous month's sales and transactions. And so we realized if we take 10 grand out this month while we could, that means we don't have 10 grand to turn into 20 grand next month. So I think that was really important. And then the second one is through all this, while we did have some months where there was a little more financial stress and uncertainty, we never let our finances, our personal finances, affect our personal lifestyle desires. So we were always mindful of our expenses and keeping those to a minimum when we needed to and living within our means for sure. But in this first year of being entrepreneurs, I'm, I guess, surprised by what we were still able to do. We had 3 out-of-state trips. Some of it for family events, some of it for pleasure. And that's not cheap, flying out of Alaska, getting rental cars, any other expenses that are associated with travel.
Most of our family lives on the East Coast, so for relative where we're going.
Yeah, so each of those trips, I set aside and took off a lot of time I could have been spending on these businesses. We spent a decent amount of money on these travels. I don't think any kind of salaried job that I could have transitioned to from the Army would have even given me this kind of flexibility to travel that much.
Yeah.
So I think that's really impressive. If we added up the number of days where I took, you could say, vacation days from doing an actual like solid day's work, I think we would be surprised with how much time is there.
I'm pretty sure it might be close to like 4 or 5 weeks.
Oh,
already.
easily over a month worth of vacation.
Yeah.
And that's something you got to earn in any other job. So that's an advantage to be an entrepreneur. And some of those trips were super last minute. We're like, something's going on. All right, we're going to leave tomorrow. Get on a plane.
That was big. We just really liked that about having that flexibility for our lifestyle.
So that's something I really like about e-commerce is it lends itself to that kind of lifestyle. And on some of those trips, I didn't work very much, but I was able to take my computer with me and manage and do some work in order to maintain what was there already. An hour in the evening, not something that cuts into spending time with family or enjoying the location we're visiting. And we also had a lot of different visitors come to us to Alaska, family and friends. And so I took time off to enjoy different travels and activities around the state with them. So we didn't really let this affect the lifestyle we wanted this past year too much. And I'm really happy about that too.
So just remember, it takes self-control over your finances, and it takes patience, and it takes diligence, and all of those things, hard work over your finances to make all of these things possible. We're not here telling you, oh, look at our like amazing lifestyle because we're spending buku bucks in debt. We're paying like for December's expenses with like, whatever, February's income already. We were very mindful with what we spent, and we underspent as much as we could. And then, we ended up overspending in some areas as well. But it was a constant like conversation and constant effort to make our budgeting and money dreams happen.
Yeah. So I think to wrap things up, we wanted to share this to give kind of some realism to what it could look like if you're leaving the military or leaving a steady salary job and starting out as a business owner. It's not all guaranteed bliss and constant profits. It hasn't been necessarily for us. Maybe we could have done more before leaving that steady income to make some of these months better, but you learn and you grow from the different choices and mistakes and successes that you make. So we want to share some of the specifics and show that it is possible. You just need a plan, and I think probably the most important thing if you're going to make a leap like this is being in control of your personal finances and being prepared for potential pitfalls and difficulties that come along the way.
And have a plan that like when it derails, like you're going to put as much effort to put it either back on the rails or pivot and change. Be willing to like be flexible and do that, and have a backup. Like we always had in the back of our mind, okay, Josiah, if you need to, you'll go again, get that part-time job. But we were like, let's just push and make this work as best we can. And we made it work. And it's been great.
Yeah. And so our goal moving forward, as I mentioned before, is to not have the entirety of our income in one business. Different industries are fickle. Jeff Bezos himself, the owner of Amazon, can change the rules for Amazon sellers tonight. And that could be devastating to my business. And he's done that several times just this year, had to make massive changes in the way the business model was. So I know that business isn't guaranteed next month or the month after or even tomorrow. Things can happen. And so don't have all your eggs in one basket and be prepared to problem solve if you need. I think that's probably about it for this episode. Thanks for listening or watching. And if you have any questions about this journey we've had, want us to talk more about different aspects, I think overall we've done a pretty good job. We've survived a year without a boss. It's been wonderful.
And all financially on our own. It's
because I'm the boss.
Right?
Yeah. Well, until next time.
Well, send them to Instagram. We should, if you want to check us out on Instagram, you can find me, Kelly Nagel. You can find me at jellybagel_AK. And Josiah is at
baconbagel_AK. Yeah, I'm trying to be a big shot Instagram influencer.
Oh my goodness.
want to get a deal with a Tesla to just like
Convenient.
post pictures of me in a Tesla driving around.
And we don't even have a Tesla.
Yeah, well, that's part of the deal. They're going to give me a Tesla.
They're just going to give it to you. 'cause
So,
you're gonna be,
but I only
okay,
have
got
like 100 followers, so that probably won't be happening anytime soon.
Okay.
But when it does, you'll want to be following me so you can see those
my
sick
goodness.
photos.
And check us out on YouTube if you're not already on there. You can find us at Entrepreneur. And then if you're watching on YouTube or you're seeing maybe a clip on Instagram, you can check us out wherever you get your podcasts. You can find us there.
Indeed, indeed. Thanks for listening and watching. We'll see you next week.
Bye.